In recent years, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, introduced several technological tools such as the Bimodal Voter Accreditation System, BVAS, and the INEC Results Viewing Portal to enhance transparency and reduce irregularities and build public confidence in Nigeria's electoral process. While tools like BVAS have shown considerable potential and performed well, in many instances, challenges emerged, particularly around the use of IREV, where delays, upload failure, and system glitches were recorded in the last presidential election. This case of system glitch and inconsistent application have contributed to the public skepticism, casting doubt on the reliability of some of these innovations and the strength of the broader electoral ecosystem. While technology remains central to electoral reports, public trust continues to waver, highlighting a disconnect that demands attention. Tonight, this episode of Electoral Reform Half Hour seeks to examine the widening gap between INEC's technological advances and the level of public trust in the electoral process. I am Exen Wanwagu. Welcome to Electoral Reform Half Hour on NTA News 24 Abuja. This program is brought to you by the Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, PACA, with support from MacArthur Foundation. Our guest tonight is Rotimi Lawrence Oyekanmi, Chief Press Secretary and Media Advisor to the Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. He is an accomplished communications professional dedicated to promoting transparency and effective public engagement regarding electoral processes. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much
in
for
a
having
very
me.
long while. I haven't seen you this relaxed. So what's the secret?
Well, it's rainy season, so everywhere is cool.
And now that you are approaching the CVR, that's
Right.
the continuous voter registration, I'm sure that some of those nerve-wracking activities that you normally have will begin again.
We are prepared.
So straight on, can you walk us through the technological innovation INEC has introduced? I know that the current chairman came in 2015.
That's right.
And this is 2025, two presidential elections. Those technological innovations, I've read some of the documents that you have produced. Is it possible you walk us briefly through some of those technological innovations?
Thank you very much. It was clear to INEC that the application of technology is the way to go. And many of the innovations we have put in place were born out of various experiences. We have been conducting general elections since 1999, and each general election is different from the other one, from the next one. And because of these experiences, we have no option than to bring in technology. And these technologies have helped us to deal with situations, both the ones we planned for and the ones we didn't plan for. And I think the outbreak of COVID-19 made it even more compelling for the Commission to go the way of technology, because that pandemic reduced human interaction to zero, and everybody went the way of Zoom. And the Commission was the first election management body in Africa to come up with a policy on conducting election in the context of COVID-19. So in no particular order, I will talk about some of these innovations. And let me also say that since the past 10 years, we have put in over 20 innovations. Of course, you mentioned the Bimodal Voter Accreditation System, which is used for authenticating voters on election day. It was, of course, an improvement on the smart card reader that was used for the 2015 general election. And it's also used to upload the polling unit results after election has been concluded to the INEC Result Viewing Portal. Of course, the INEC Result Viewing Portal, the controversial one, is also part of the innovations. And we brought that about for so many reasons, which I will come back to later. And then we have the continuous voter registration portal. Like I said, COVID-19 was a compelling situation for us. And because of our various experiences, we discovered that we needed to apply technology to make it easier for people to register. So in the last exercise, in 2021, we introduced the online portal. And what does it mean? It allows our prospective registrants to go online, fill the forms, upload their details, and then choose the nearest registration center where they will now go and validate all those things, because they need to go there and they need to capture their biometrics and facial details, you know. And of course, we have the Election Management and Support System, Support Center, EMSC. EMSC is so fundamental to the Commission because it helps us to monitor pre-election, election day, and post-election activities. And I hope I'll have some time to discuss some of the...
You would not have that much time,
right.
so just...
So the DMS is so important because, you know, when election is not about what takes place on election day, so many activities will have happened before election day. Take the general election, for instance. It takes about 4 years to prepare. Now, all the things that need to be done, capacity development, material purchase and deployment, recruitment of ad hoc staff, all these things are a wide range of things. So that dashboard is the one, the EMSC is the one that tells us exactly whether some activities that have timelines have been done, whether they have not been done, and tell us who is responsible. So if you have a timeline of 6 months, 8 months, 1 year, that certain activities need to be done and they are not done.
And this, we didn't have this before 20...
No, it was introduced in 2018.
2018.
2018, really. And that really helped us, not just for the general election, but for all elections, because it became the go-to dashboard to know what is going on, especially, you know, when we're moving close to elections. Then we also have the voter verification system, which enables voters to find out about their polling units, about where their permanent voter cards are if they don't have it, and such other information. So, and so on and so forth. And we also have the INEC security portal, INEC security alert and notification system, which enables on election day, INEC's ad hoc staff to trigger an alarm if there's an attack anywhere. And that has really, really been helpful in some of the elections that we have conducted. When there is trouble and they trigger that, our security partners are able to move there and
very quickly.
Right.
I heard you say that about 20 technological innovations.
That's right.
And I know there's a document that captures all of that right now. But which of these would you say has had the most transformative impact on the electoral process, and why?
That's a tough question because, you know, all these innovations have their advantages, and it depends on what you are looking at. But of course, you have the popular ones that the public know. Well, you also have the ones the public do not know, but are also fundamental. One of them is the EMSC. But for me, I think the bimodal voter accreditation system would rank as one of the best innovations that we have brought about so far. And why is it so? For 2015 general election, we used the smart card reader, which was a very good innovation. But it was later discovered that there were challenges with authentication of the fingerprints, especially in rural areas. For some reason, in subsequent elections, it was very difficult to authenticate voters, and it led to it led to a situation where many legitimate voters could not vote. And of course, that led to the incidence form thing, of course, and we know how the abuse became so prominent, and the Commission had to think out of the box. What do we do? How do we deal with this? And that led to the introduction of BVAS. And BVAS solved the problem. BVAS not only takes your fingerprints, it takes your facials. So it's a two-way thing. It's either you accredit with your fingerprint, and if that doesn't work, then your facial is the next thing. And of course, the facial never fails. It never fails. And for the most part, I think Nigerians love that. But there's another important thing that the BVAS does. After the elections have been concluded at the polling units, the votes have been counted, sorted, the results entered into the Form E-C-8A, the presiding officer is required to use the BVAS to snap a picture of the Form E-C-8A, which is the polling unit result, and then upload to IREV. So that's why it's extremely a good device. But of course, the IVET too, the INEC voter enrollment device, is also very, very critical. That's why I'm saying that, you know, it depends on what you're looking at. The IVET...
okay, we will soon be going on a short break, but before we do, a lot of people really continue to misunderstand the IREV.
Right.
And even the BVAS was not promoted, you know, the way it should have in terms of the problem that it solved in 2023. So will you just, in a few seconds, if you can, or in a minute, tell us, you know, what's the core function of the IREV? Why is not an electronic transmission platform in the usual sense? And why what matters for public trust in election transparency? What is the most important thing in that IREV that is important for public transparency?
Thank you so much. This is a very good question for me. As the name denotes, it is called the INEC Result Viewing Portal. And that's the misunderstanding that people have about the portal. It's result viewing portal. The portal does not do anything other than to display the polling unit result. And I try to explain it this way to people, that when you go to a stadium to watch a match, you have this big scoreboard. At the beginning of the match, it reads 0-0. Then maybe 10 minutes into the match, Team A scores, then they post 1-0 there. Then another 10 minutes, maybe Team B equalizes, it becomes 1-1. And maybe just before that time, Team A scores becomes 2-1, and so on and so forth. So it's a cause and effect thing. Now, a goal needs to be scored for any figure up there to be changed. So it is what is transmitted to the scoreboard that the scoreboard displays. It doesn't add or subtract. That is what IREV is. IREV enables Nigerians to see results of polling units across the country, anywhere they are. It is to prevent some form of manipulation, because of course, our experience over the years taught us that where public trust is missing, where the suspicion comes in, is the result management process. That, okay, people are not really so bothered about election at the polling unit. They trust about it is when we are collating and managing the result. That's when people begin to suspect, oh, they are trying to change figures. So I thought that in order to engender transparency, let's allow Nigerians to see how these things are done. So we now tell across all polling units in any election situation, presiding officer, when you finish all your processes, because it's the last thing he will do before he proceeds to the collation center, snap this thing and send it. So IREV is just to display. It is not a collation device. It does not add or subtract anything from what is posted. It is just a signboard to just display what is posted by the
so when we come back from break, we're going to discuss what the challenge was with that IREV, because the glitch, the communication challenge within that period continues to resonate. And then in the simple way you have explained it now, when we return, we'll go on break now. Electoral Reform Half Hour continues shortly. Stay with us. Glad to have you back. We're still speaking with Mr. Rotimi Lawrence Oyekanmi, Chief Press Secretary to the Honorable Chairman, Independent National Electoral Commission. So I was saying that I wanted you to, part of what we, going around the country, doing the some of the trainings and activities that we've been doing post 2023 election, the question was that INEC told us that this results viewing portal will be real time, and people thought that it was a collation, innovation. So why has the misunderstanding of it persisted?
Well, I think that with the benefit of hindsight, we tried as much as possible to communicate the functions of IREV to my understanding, because, of course, I lead the team that communicates on social media and all of that. But I think for some reason, some Nigerians did not understand the purpose of IREV. In fact, many people felt that even the BVAS was an electronic voting machine. And to that extent, and it was not also helped by the misinformation and disinformation that some people were deliberately putting out there, And when the glitch happened, which was extremely unfortunate, people were saying things like, INEC switched off the IREV. We didn't switch off the IREV. We had a meltdown, which was extremely devastating, because I was right there at the collation center when this happened. And I know the efforts that our ICT people put there. And I've also heard people say that we did not communicate. We were ready to communicate, but this is a very contentious election. And before that election, we've had narratives about cyber attacks. We've had so many false, fake news, false information that people have posted out there. And the first thing you have to do when you have what I can say is an accident is to first of all understand what happened. And the only group of people at that point in time that could tell us were the ICT people.
Did it take them that number of hours to be able to tell?
Yeah, it took them that, because they needed to investigate all the dimensions. Of course, what they told us was we should give them between 30 minutes to 1 hour to deal with it. But the processes they had to check went beyond that. And there was no way we could communicate to Nigerians when we don't have anything to say. Because anything we say will be held against us. So that was it. But you see, another thing is that, we try to explain to people that, even from the name, and that's how I explain it to Nigerians, that it's called the INEC result viewing with emphasis. Underlined. But people didn't even pay attention to that. They just felt that, this thing is going to collate result and probably announce. They were expecting the IREF to announce the presidential election result. And people also forgot that the collation process is also a matter of law. These things are stipulated in the Constitution. How the results of the presidential election should be collated is right there. And when people say things like, the result management is also manual, people also went mad about that. I mean, what do you mean? You told us you were going to do this and you are doing that. I would say, no, we had been explaining that, yes, IREF was put there to engender transparency. It was in no way going to announce the result of the presidential election for you. But I think that lessons have been learned, and going forward...
That's where I'm going. Sorry,
right.
That's where I'm going to go to. So the reports, at every end of every election, INEC produces. So your 2023 post-election draws from internal and external assessments.
That's right.
Could you walk us through how the commission evaluated the performance of these technologies that you deployed? Let's start from the IVED, BVAS. Just summarize them. Did you have some kind of audit of technological, performance?
Yes, we did. And honestly, without any fear of contradiction, IVED is something that was one tool that voters appreciated. They were so much in love with the idea that we could introduce online pre-registration. And what they only said was that we should expand that possibility and improve on that. The BVAS, there was no problem with the authentication or accreditation aspect of the BVAS, stakeholders agreed that BVAS performed well because by our own score, we had 98% performance on BVAS. As far as accreditation is concerned, BVAS performed very well. The only area where Nigerians had issues is with IREV. And we tried to explain to them what happened. We had a configuration and internal error problem. And, I'm not an ICT person, so I can't explain. There are certain terms and terminologies that I'm not in position to explain.
So you help me bring the ICT persons.
So it was, for me, the summary of it is that we had a meltdown. And that meltdown was so fundamental that we had to do everything possible to restore it, and we did restore. And as I speak, those results are on IREF, and nobody's going to remove them forever. They're going to be there for as long as there is INEC.
And it's going to be helping researchers on
Yes.
elections.
Yes.
So if, do you think your communication strategy adequately explained these limitations? Because, and then it's double barrel now, so that we can take a few things, explain, and the capabilities of your tech to the public. If not, how should this be improved? And then we're going to 2027. Are there new, beyond these things, and just to put it on the record, those innovations are, revolutionary in my view. Are there new things, with the lesson learned that you talked about, that could come up before the 2027?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think that when it comes to proactively providing information to the public, I think if you take 5 institutions that are best in Nigeria, INEC will be one of them. And stakeholders agreed that pre-election period, we were out there providing information. We have a robust INEC press corps. We are on social media platforms, and the commission meets regularly with stakeholders, quarterly. And anything that emanates from that place is in newspapers, is all over the place the next day. I think what people didn't appreciate was the fact that we were slow in communicating about the IREF. And I've just explained to you that in as much as we wanted to do that, we needed to understand what happened. Because you cannot issue a statement or talk about what you are not sure of. The ICT people were trying to understand it. And it was only when that understanding came that we were able to communicate. Of course, many people felt, oh, that was wrong or anything like that. But I said, well, it is what it is. But if you check all other activities before then or even after then, INEC is always forthcoming in releasing information. So, and we'll continue to do that. With the benefit of hindsight, all the loopholes that we found in terms of communication strategy, we'll continue to improve on those strategies. And of course, our stakeholders recommended quite a number of things. Are there new innovations? Yes. But you see, the bad guys are also watching and listening to us.
And so it's important that's where we're going to draw the curtain for today's episode. I'm working on having the director of ICT, INEC, on this program, because the focus of the electoral reform half hour will be on INEC's technological innovations, improvements, and some of the challenges. This is where we draw the curtain on this episode of Electoral Reform Half Hour. And we wish to specially thank Mr. Rotimi Oyekanmi for your time and contributions on the program. It was a pleasure having you. Thank you so very much, sir.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Electoral Reform Half Hour is brought to you by Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, PACA, with sponsorship from MacArthur Foundation. We are live every Saturday from 8:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. with a repeat broadcast every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. on same station. I am Ezenwa Wangu. Thank you for watching.